Hello. In this unit, we're going to introduce you to professional letter writing as the third part of the application process. In addition to a resume, job seekers include a cover letter as part of their application. There are three main reasons to write a cover letter. A written letter shows the applicant's personal style, explains the applicant's qualifications for the job, and formally asks for an interview. In later videos, we will take you through each part of the cover letter and how to write a clear and organized cover letter. At the end of this unit, you will write your own cover letter to apply for a specific job. To begin, a cover letter is a one-page formal letter, and there are some parts that look the same in each cover letter. In a later video, we will talk about professional letter format, or how it looks. However, the content or information in the cover letter should be a little different from each job you are applying for. The cover letter helps an employer to understand more about the applicant and helps to direct attention to certain parts of the resume. The first reason for writing a cover letter is that it shows the applicant's personal style or personality. Job seekers choose very specific words to introduce themselves to an employer. This is how they show their personal style. For example, Tom and Beth are both applying for the same job as an international student advisor. In his cover letter, Tom writes, "I am interested in working with international students." Beth writes, "I am very excited to meet and work with international students." The word choices in these examples show us their personal styles. We see that Tom is interested in working with international students, but Beth is very excited to meet and work with international students. Beth's personality is much clearer with her word choices, excited to meet and work with. The second reason for writing a cover letter is to explain the applicant's qualifications for the job. Using our same candidates, Tom and Beth, let's see how they would write a short description of their qualifications. Tom writes, "I have 2 years of experience working as an activities director of a language school." Beth says, "As a resident advisor, I advise students on counseling on personal, cultural, and immigration issues, as well as organize professional, social, and cultural programs." From the short descriptions in their cover letters, most employers would want to read Beth's resume to find out more about her experience. The third reason for writing a cover letter is to formally ask for an interview. There are different ways to make a request, as we will discuss in later videos. When applicants know the name and the contact information of the hiring manager, they may say that they will call at a certain time to arrange for an interview. For those who do not know who the hiring manager is, they should give their phone number or email address so the employer can contact them. To review, we now know the cover letter is the introduction to the applicant's personal style and gives a summary of the applicant's qualifications, which are explained in the resume. If employers like what they read in the cover letter, it is possible that the applicant will be invited for an interview. Next, go on to reading number 1, which shows 2 sample cover letters.
Hello! In this video, we will introduce the parts of a professional letter and format of a letter, or how it should look. In the United States, professional writing follows a standard format or order and includes 4 parts. The first part is the heading, which includes the writer's address and contact information, the date, and the reader's name and address. The second part is the salutation. The third part is the 3 body paragraphs: opening paragraph, middle paragraph, and closing paragraph. And the fourth is the closing, which includes a complimentary close, a signature, and a typed name. First, the heading of a letter begins with the writer's address and additional contact information, such as email address or phone number, in the top left corner. Notice how this job seeker, Beth Bradley, wrote her information here. The date follows the U.S. format of month, day, and then year. Don't forget the comma separates the 2 numbers. For example, Beth wrote this letter on April 26, 2016. The next part includes the full name and address of the reader. In this example, Beth is sending the letter to Jane Doe, who is the director of the Office of International Programs at the University of Texas. In addition to the first and last name of the reader, Beth also writes the title and the department, as Jane Doe is part of a large university. Since you may not know whether the reader is a man or a woman, it is acceptable to write the first and last name only, followed by the job title. Nowadays, many job applications are completed online, and job seekers may not know who the reader will be. In this case, it is acceptable to leave the name off of the reader's address and simply put the department and address of the organization. The second part of the letter is the salutation, or official greeting, and always begins with the word "Dear." Because this is a greeting, it is better to have a person's name. Following the word "Dear," Beth uses the person's full name and a colon. Beth knows the name of her reader, but if she didn't know, she could write "Dear Hiring Manager." Generally, the salutation is better if you have a person's name, but sometimes job advertisements do not provide the name of the employer. Next come the 3 body paragraphs of the letter. This is where you introduce yourself, explain your qualifications, and ask for an interview. We will discuss each paragraph in detail in later videos. The opening paragraph tells the reader that you are applying for a specific job. We will talk about different ways job seekers write this information in the next video. The middle paragraph is where job seekers explain their skills and how they are qualified for the specific job. We will look at examples and discuss how to write this paragraph in a later video. The last paragraph is important because the closing should make a positive impression of the candidate. We will talk about how to write the closing paragraph in a later video. The end of the letter includes a complimentary close, a signature, and the applicant's typed name. The complimentary close that is used most often is "Sincerely," followed by a comma. The signature is usually handwritten by the applicant, followed by the typed name. As for the format, All parts of the letter should be along the left side of the paper. The lines should be single-spaced with extra spaces between each of the parts. Writers should try to fit all of the parts onto one page. Let's review the parts of a professional letter. The heading includes the writer's address and contact information, the date, and the reader's name and address. The second part is the salutation. The third part includes the body paragraphs. The closing part of the letter includes a complimentary close, a signature, and a typed name. Next, go on to a game to practice matching the parts of the letter.
Hello. In this video, we will talk about ways to use your cover letter to introduce yourself to an employer. The first paragraph of a cover letter must include a statement of application, applying for a job, the specific title of the job opening, and your source of information. This is the part of the letter in which applicants show their interest in the position. Remember that the opening paragraph also needs to get the employer's attention. Let's look at an example job seeker, Beth, who is applying for a position as an international student advisor. In the opening paragraph of her cover letter, Beth starts by explaining that she read an article and the job advertisement in a newspaper, the Austin Times. She puts this information in the first sentence. After mentioning where she saw the advertisement, her second sentence gives a clear statement of application with the title of the job opening. In the last sentence of this paragraph, Beth highlights or focuses on her education and area of specialization. This is a short paragraph, but it tells an employer some important information about her. She knows about the student population, and her education makes her a good match for the position. There are many ways to write an opening paragraph. Each writer organizes and explains ideas differently with their own personal style. Let's look at another example from Reading 1, Tomoko's cover letter. Like Beth, Tomoko begins with the source of her information. She read about the job opening for an administrative assistant in the Seattle Times. Tomoko chooses a more indirect approach by saying that she read about a job opening and then gives the job title. The next sentence expresses her interest in the position because she shows that she understands the company's need and that she is qualified to help them. In her last sentence, she chooses to highlight her language skills, work experience, and office skills. Again, this is a short paragraph, but it tells the employer that the applicant knows something about the company and that she has skills to help the company. Job postings are not only found in newspapers nowadays. Sometimes job seekers mention the source of the information in the first sentence of the opening paragraph, especially if it is through a personal reference. If the source of information is a person or a website, the job applicant might write something like this. 1. At the XYZ regional conference, your colleague Janie Quinn told me about the job opening for an executive assistant. 2. I am applying for the position of administrative assistant announced on the irongate.com website. In summary, we've looked at the opening paragraph of a cover letter. This paragraph serves as the introduction to the applicant and must include a statement of application, the specific title of the job opening, and the source of information. Some job seekers choose to briefly write about their education, skills, or experience at the end as a connection to the next paragraph. In the next video, we'll take a look at cover letter paragraph 2, highlighting your skills in the cover letter.
Hello! In this video, we will talk about ways to highlight your skills and qualifications in the cover letter. In paragraph 2 in the body of the cover letter, you will summarize 2 or 3 examples from your education, experience, and interests to show a future employer how you are qualified for the job. The examples that you choose will explain or support the information in your resume, not just repeat what is in your resume. This paragraph is your chance to really stand out from all the other applicants. Remember that employers are looking for people who can help their business or organization be successful. Focus on how your skills and qualifications will help them. When you are applying for a specific position, it is a good idea to use the job description or advertisement as a guide. The job description is very useful because it has keywords about the skills and experience needed to do the job. Our applicant, Beth, read a job description for an international student advisor with the keywords international students, 2 years of experience, and excellent communication skills. Using the sample cover letters from reading 1, let's look at how Beth focused on her skills in the second paragraph of her cover letter. In the beginning sentences, she writes about her current job as a resident advisor. She gives very specific information about the students she helps and the interpersonal and organizational skills she uses. In her first example, she explains that she works with 40 students, advises them, and organizes programs. The last 3 sentences of this paragraph focus on her experience as a student when she assisted with international student orientation and learned more about international cultures and communication. Now, let's see how Tomoko shows her skills and qualifications in the cover letter. She begins with her administrative skills and says that she has 10 years of experience with Microsoft Office, as well as several web-based programs. Her next example focuses on her language skills. She writes about her experience studying in Spain and her volunteer experience with people of diverse cultures. Tomoko ends the paragraph well by connecting those skills to the company's needs. The job posting says that they need an administrative assistant with strong computer skills and interpersonal skills. And Tomoko does a good job of explaining that she has those skills. As you can see, there are many ways for job seekers to focus on their skills and qualifications in paragraph 2 of the cover letter. Some choose to use 2 or 3 examples from their education, work experience, or their interests. In their descriptions, they are always trying to show future employers how they are qualified for the job. Now, let's move on to a game so you can practice matching the job description with skills and examples.
Hello. In this video, we will talk about ways to close or end the cover letter. In this paragraph, job seekers make a request to interview for the job, tell how they will follow up with the application, and leave the reader with a positive impression. These items can be written in any order. The goal of this paragraph is to summarize your interest in the job and show the employer that you are ready for the next step, a job interview. Although job seekers do not make the decision about the interview or schedule, they should plan to call or email the employer soon after sending the application. This shows that the applicant is serious about the job and may lead to an interview. Let's look at our example applicant in the United States, Beth, and see how she wrote the closing paragraph of her cover letter. She begins this paragraph by summarizing her experience and showing her interest in working at the University of Texas. She then leaves a positive impression by thanking the reader when she says, "Thank you for taking the time to review my resume." She also tells the reader that she plans to move to Austin at the end of May, and that she will be available for an interview at any time. This information is only necessary if you do not live in the same location as the employer. You can see that Beth continues making her positive impression with phrases like, "would be delighted to meet with you," and "I look forward to speaking with you soon." Because of her positive impression, her summary of qualifications and interest, Beth's closing paragraph is very effective. Let's look at another example with Tomoko's closing paragraph. Tomoko begins the paragraph with a very polite request for an interview by saying, "I would appreciate the opportunity to discuss my qualifications in an interview." Her request is very indirect or polite, but both applicants are clearly asking for a chance to meet the employer in person. In the next sentence, Tomoko says, "I will contact your office next week." We don't know if this will be a phone call or email, but she can do one or both. Like Beth, she also gives a specific time by saying next week. Tomoko also leaves a positive impression by thanking the reader and expressing her interest in meeting in person when she says, "Thank you for your consideration of my application, and I look forward to meeting with you." At the end of the cover letters, both job applicants add a complimentary close, "sincerely," followed by a comma, their signature or handwritten name, and then their typed names. Your signature shows your personal style, so be sure to write neatly and clearly so that the reader can understand your name. To summarize, we've learned how to end the cover letter with a closing paragraph that makes a request for an interview, tells the reader how you plan to follow up, and leaves the reader with a positive impression. We also learned about the complementary close, signature, and the typed name. Now, let's move on to another video which talks about the present perfect and past tenses.
Hello! In this video, we're going to look at two tenses in English, simple past and present perfect. We will first examine one use of each tense and how we form them. When writing your cover letter, it is very important that you can understand how to use both tenses correctly. To begin, let's look at these sentences. They are taken from a sample cover letter. I have worked in my current job for the past 3 years. I began here in 2013. Before my current job, I studied in college for 4 years. In which of these sentences is the action complete or finished? In which of these sentences is the action still continuing to now? What do you think? That's right. The correct answer is, I began here in 2013 and I studied in college are complete or finished actions. I have worked in my current job for the past 3 years is still continuing. So we can see there is an important difference in use between these two tenses. Do you know what tense I began and I studied is? It's called the simple past. And do you know what tense I have worked is? It's called the present perfect. So, to sum up, we use the simple past tense to describe a complete or finished action in the past. We use the present perfect tense to describe an action that began in the past but continues to now. Now, let's look at how we form each of these two tenses. In the simple past, there are two types of verbs, regular and irregular verbs. I studied in college for 4 years is an example of a regular verb. In this case, we simply add ed or ied. If the verb ends in y, like study, add ied to the base form of the verb. So I studied, you studied, he studied, she studied, etc. I began here in 2013 is an example of an irregular verb. We call it irregular or not regular because its form changes from the present to the past tense in an irregular way. So, in the case of I began in 2013, the present form is I begin, as in I begin work each day at 9 a.m. These verbs do not follow a regular pattern like regular verbs do, so you should try and study the forms of each verb. Many English grammar books have a list of past tense irregular verbs. We usually use the simple past with a time phrase. Do you know what the time phrase is in this sentence? I began here in 2013. That's right, in 2013. Other examples of popular time phrases used with the simple past are ago, as in, I finished college 3 years ago. I began at my present job in 2013. Next, let's look at the present perfect. Like the simple past, there are regular and irregular verbs. In the example, I have worked in my current job for the past 3 years, the verb worked is a regular verb. We use the verb have or has plus what we call the past participle to form the present perfect. In this case, the past participle is worked. So we could say, I have worked, you have worked, he has worked, Mary has worked, etc. With regular verbs, the past participle will be the same as the simple past form. However, with irregular verbs, it will usually be different. Again, good English grammar books will list the past participle of irregular verbs. You should become familiar with them. The verb be is an example of an irregular verb. The simple past form is was or were, and the past participle is been. So we might say, I have been a receptionist for 6 years. Am I still a receptionist? Is Patricia a doctor now? The answer to both questions is yes. To sum up, we have discussed in this unit the simple past and the present perfect, 2 important tenses that you can use in your cover letter. We use the simple past to talk about complete or finished actions, and the present perfect to talk about actions that began in the past but are still continuing in the present. Next, we will play a game to practice these 2 tenses.
Hello. In this video, we're going to talk about the level of formality in your cover letter. We'll discuss why we need to think about formality as we write it and look at some of the differences between formal and informal tone or style in a cover letter. To begin, let's define what we mean by level of formality. In English, as in many other languages, we use different words and grammar forms depending on the situation we are communicating in. So, for example, if I am speaking with my close friend, I would probably use more informal language such as, "What's up, Tony?" or "How's it going? You going to watch the game tonight?" However, if I am speaking or writing to someone I don't know personally and the context is more professional, then I should choose a more formal style of language. Therefore, expressions such as, "What's up, Tony? How's it going?" could be incorrect or rude in that situation. If the person who reads my cover letter were to see such expressions, they might be surprised, shocked, or even offended by my level of informality. With this in mind, it is important that you use formal words or phrases in your cover letter. Nowadays, many employers request that you send your resume and cover letter by email rather than by traditional mail. However, just because you are writing your cover letter in an email does not mean you should write in an informal way, as if you are speaking with a friend or a family member. For example, how should you address the person you are writing to? Should you say, "Hi Mary," or "Hi Mr. Smith"? Both of these greetings or salutations are too informal. A more appropriate one is, "Dear Mr. Smith," if the person is a man, or Dear Miss Smith if the person is a woman. If you don't know the sex of the person you are addressing, then Dear Sir or Madam is a better choice. Likewise, in your closing, it would be interpreted as too informal if you were to write bye, or take care, or goodbye. A more formal alternative is sincerely or yours sincerely, and then you should follow this with your full name. In the body of your cover letter or email, try to avoid using informal language. It's best not to use contractions such as I'm, your, it's, etc. Use the longer forms, I am, you are, it is. While these things might seem small to you, they will contribute to the overall professional tone of your writing and help with creating a good first impression. Finally, let's look at an example of the opening of a cover letter. This one is written too informally. See what you think. Hi there, I saw your ad for a receptionist in the paper and I'm really interested in the job. Clearly, this is too informal. In the United States, this would not be acceptable, and an employer who reads it might interpret the writer as not being serious or professional enough for the job. So, the message is, always try and be professional in any communication with an employer. Here's the sample rewritten, so it's now more formal. Dear Miss Smith, I was very interested to read your advertisement for the position of receptionist in the Seattle Herald, dated May 6, 2011. I would like to be considered for this job. In this video, we have looked at levels of formality in a cover letter and discussed the differences between formal and informal styles. I hope you can see that using a more formal style in your cover letter is what's expected from an employer. Next, we'll look at controlling tone with modal verbs.
Hello! In this video, we're going to talk about using modal verbs to be more polite. When applying for a job in the United States, it is important that job seekers are direct and honest, but also respectful and polite. Modal verbs help the writer to control the tone or feeling. This is how you will leave a positive impression on your reader. We will begin with the definition of modal verbs, the grammar structure, and the meaning or reasons why we use them. Then we will look at example sentences with and without modal verbs to show how the same message is given in different ways. Let's begin with a definition. Modal verbs are helping verbs, such as can, will, could, would, or might. These modal verbs show a speaker's attitude or feeling that something is possible or probable. Modal verbs are helping verbs that are immediately followed by the simple form of a verb. Could and would are very common modal verbs used in cover letters, emails, and conversations during the job search. When you use a modal verb in the sentence, it must be followed by another verb in the simple form. Look at this example. I could assist the company by working with international visitors. Now, let's talk about the meaning of can and will along with could and would. When a writer uses can or will, it is very direct. Can means that the writer has the ability to do something, and will shows that the writer is making a future promise or prediction. Could or would show that something is possible, probable, or very likely. These are more polite forms of can and will. Let's look at some examples from a cover letter. Number 1. I can assist your company in international markets. Number 2. I could assist your company in international markets. Number 1 just shows that the person has the ability, but number 2 is more polite and shows the possibility of using that ability to help the company. Here's another example with will and would. Number 1. I will assist your company in international markets. Number 2. I would assist your company in international markets. It is rude for him to say, I will assist your company in international markets, because only the employer gets to make that decision. If the applicant is too direct, it changes the tone or feeling of the message. Another meaning of the modal verb would is a polite form of want. Want is often too direct and can sometimes be rude. Would like is more indirect and polite. In a cover letter, applicants want to have a job interview, but need to politely say what they want. The way to do that is by saying, number 1, I would like to discuss the job in an interview. Or, number 2, I would like to learn more about the company in an interview. It is very important that job seekers communicate what they could or would do for a company, and then clearly say what they want the company to do for them, respectfully and politely. Let's review what we've learned about modal verbs. Using modal verbs in writing and speaking is the best way to be direct but also polite. Job seekers can control their tone and leave a positive impression. We now know that modal verbs would and could are used with other verbs to describe things that are possible or likely. We can also use would like to clearly show what we want in a polite and respectful way. Next, go on to a game to practice using modal verbs in polite language.
Hello. In this, the final video of Unit 3, we're going to talk about writing your cover letter for a specific job. We will prepare for the second assessment of this unit, where you will first write your own cover letter for a job. You will then read another student's cover letter and fill out a checklist while reading that person's cover letter. Typically, as we discussed in Unit 1, in the United States, you will find job advertisements in newspapers, job websites, or company websites. After finding a job you like and are qualified for, you will apply for that position. To apply, the employer will usually ask you to send a resume and a cover letter. After completing Unit 2, you should already have a resume. Now, after completing Unit 3, you should write a cover letter to accompany your resume. To help you write this cover letter, we're going to ask you to choose one of two options. Option 1 is to write a cover letter for this job advertisement for a client services coordinator. It's the same one we saw in Unit 1. Option 2 is to find a job advertisement by yourself and apply for that position, remembering to upload it along with your resume. This may be a great option for you if you are currently applying to jobs and have found a posting that you'd like to respond to. As you write your cover letter, try and remember all the things we have discussed in this unit in relation to writing a cover letter. Go back over the previous videos if that helps you, and look at the other sample cover letters used in this unit as a guide when you write. Take your time doing this, and like when you wrote your resume in Unit 2, ask someone you trust to read through it a few times after you finish it to check it for spelling, grammar, and punctuation. Good luck with this. Next, in Assessment 2, you will complete your own cover letter, upload it, and then read someone else's cover letter. While you read through that person's cover letter, you will complete a checklist. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.